fellow collectors, and welcome to Long's Toys. Today we are taking a look at Daizyujin from Kyoryu Sentai Zyuranger as part of the DXrobo universe line. And I have to say, right off the bat, the artwork on the front of the packaging here looks really cool. I mean, this is kind of making the toy look much cooler than I think it's actually going to turn out. But I love this artwork here on the front. Really spectacular. If we spin around to the side, it shows that it is fourth in the line. I think we have one, maybe two more before I think this line comes to a close. So we'll see how that goes. Over here, you can see the individual dino mech. And yeah, that's where this one I think is going to end up falling apart. But we'll see how it goes. Up here also looks pretty good. You got Tyrannoranger and the very close-up shot of Daizyujin there with the Zyuranger logo. Not really much going on the bottom, just warnings and whatnot. And then if we spin around to the back, again, we can see Daizyujin, the individual dino mech, and it has to have compatibility with the Megazord as well as the rest of the line. And then here we go. Here's our first little sneak peek at Shinkano, which I believe will be the last in the line. Doesn't look too bad. We'll see how it turns out once we see some more pictures. But Gal King is the next one coming next month. And then Shinkano has been rumored for quite some time, but we haven't really seen like official stock photos or anything of it yet. So there's your first little sneak peek. But yeah, gonna go ahead and get this guy out of the box here and we'll take a closer look. All right, so here are all of the pieces as they come in the box. We have these obvious leg pieces. This is your saber-toothed tiger. Flip the teeth down. And that's it. No legs or anything of any kind. A little bit of silver paint, a little bit of red there, which looks nice, but a little bit of red there for the eyes. But yeah, overall, not the best. Then we have the Triceratops. Again, silver paint on the horns is kind of nice. Red for the eyes. You know, the molding is decent. A little bit of silver and red paint up here as well. Now, he didn't have feet, he just had like treads, and I feel like maybe they could have molded the treads on there and it would have been passable. I think sadly this is probably the best Zord or Mecha individual dino, whatever you want to call it, out of the whole bunch. So strap in. Then we have these pieces here. So we'll start with the Mastodon, Mammoth, whatever you want to call it. The front legs do not come off of the head. So when this is in shield mode, you pop this part out, which is his little handle so that the robot can hold it, and the legs are just hanging there. So you can see that the tusks and the trunk are all one giant molded piece of white plastic, but otherwise you have some silver, some kind of yellowish gold, the green. The paint that's on here is nice. Obviously it could use more. Even if there was just a way to kind of flip the legs back and they just, like if they just hid behind the head more, I think that would be better. But nope, they just hang out there. So we'll put this back. And then you have this section here, which is obviously going to be the arms. And all you do is plug this in. This clip right here goes into the center here. And then you fold the fists down to pretend that they are the back legs. There's your mammoth or mastodon. Because there's no elbow joints. Like, you can move these around. There's a click there. But there's no elbow. So if they could have just had them come down, I think this would have been wildly more successful. But then they'd have to kind of re-engineer the entire skeleton, and they're obviously not going to do that. There is your mammoth or mastodon. Next, we have the pterodactyl. Remove this piece. Flip out the head. Replace piece. You are done. There is the pterodactyl. Very tiny little head, has some red paint there for the eyes. The silver here for what will be the front of the Daizyujin, that's pretty good. A little bit of yellow there. You can see like these are supposed to be like the wings. These are the little wings molded there. And then you have these like cannons here. It's a very hollow piece of plastic, but there you go. There is the pterodactyl. I don't remember in the photos I saw, I didn't even see these wings. I thought it was just this. But there are tiny little wings there. Then we come to the best one yet. This is the Tyrannosaurus. So we're going to take this piece here, which is obviously the main hip section. You can see he's got this tiny little section of tail here. You're going to orient it like this. You're going to take this extra piece that's just hanging out, and you are going to clip it on there like that. Then you're going to take your tiny little T-Rex feet and clip them on under here. Then you're going to take this piece. This is obviously the waist section, kind of the skirt of Daizyujin. And you can see they kind of tried to mold like the tiniest little T-Rex hands there. Obviously, they don't want it to be too distracting when it's a skirt for Daizyujin, but they did kind of try to mold little hands there. And then that is just kind of frictioned on to this other piece, which is going to be kind of like on the chest / midsection of Daizyujin. But this clip here just kind of frictions in there. It's not a full clip. You just kind of push it in, and it's snug. It's not going anywhere. And then you have this piece that clips on top. So you can see it's kind of the T-Rex head, but it's also very much Daizyujin's head, and this piece just lifts off. So here is Daizyujin's head, nicely painted. I mean, you know, the black looks great, the silver, the gold for the eyes, and the horn on the top. You know, I think that looks good. You have your tiny little T-Rex head with the blue eyes, and then this just sits over top and kind of barely covers Daizyujin's head. I wish if they could have done something with the horns, even if you could just like rotate them or something, but I understand. Not in the budget. But anyway, this piece is going to peg in here. And then you take the dinky little sword, and that pegs in here. And there's your T-Rex. Yeah. So, like I said, these are not great. I get that they're limited. I get that they have to work with the same skeleton and everything. It's sad when these are the two best ones and they're almost nothing. Like, I also just don't know why this whole piece is cut out. Like, why couldn't that have just gone straight across? I guess to pretend these are legs? Is that what we're doing? I don't know. But yeah, these are kind of the two best ones. Mammoth, I mean, I guess it could be worse, but even like I said, if they had put elbows in the original design of the skeleton and these could have bent down, I think that would have been fine. I really don't think that would have been that bad. But he's just way too long. This is just kind of a joke, but at least they put these tiny little wings on. It's better than nothing, I guess, but it's still not great. And then, like, honestly, I don't even mind this whole section so much. Like, I guessed that the reason the sword was so dinky is because, you know, when the legs are attached and it has to touch like, it has to be the same level as this, because if the sword was bigger and more impressive, then he'd kind of sit like that and that wouldn't work. And I kind of assumed that's why. I could honestly live with all of this if this just had some kind of better structure or actual hands or something. Even if it was pieces that you clipped on and then just had to like hide on the back somewhere when you're in Daizyujin mode. But yeah, that's a little rough. But hey, let's go ahead and get into the Daizyujin transformation. So something I should address before we do that, I'm sure a lot of people will ask, can you pull off the tank mode with this thing? The answer is kinda. So there is no official tank mode. There's nothing in the instructions for it. It's not really made to do it. But because of the nature of the skeleton with this thing, you can kind of fan mode make something. I tried. It did not come out great. I didn't like sit at it for hours, to be fair. It's whatever I could figure out in 10 to 15 minutes. But it does not look good. But like I said, you can kind of fan make something. The one that I did with, like I said, doesn't really look good. And I had a bunch of pieces left over that I didn't really know what to do with. So I'm sure someone out there who's far more creative than me, or, you know, really wants to spend the time, maybe you could pull something off, but there's not an official one in the directions. So again, because of the way it comes apart, all the different components, you could try to make something yourself, but there is no official mode. All right, so we can roll through this pretty quickly. Obviously, you're going to take the legs, you are going to disconnect the big headpiece, and then you're just going to use this connection, which kind of puts it at like a 45-degree angle. So there is one leg. Do the same for the other. And like this whole piece, I guess I should stipulate, like this can come completely off. So if you wanted to, you know, use these for something else, that's just how it works. It's one solid piece like that. Very similar to the other ones that we've seen. Okay, so there are your legs. Pretty much ready to go. We will take the T-Rex. We will disconnect the sword. You leave the legs on. You disconnect this piece. You take this piece and you just pop it up here like that. And you leave the little tail piece here on as well. You're going to pop this section off. Then you're going to take this off, and then you're going to take this off, and there's the Daizyujin head. This is supposed to, like, clip onto this back piece like this. And it kind of just frictions on. It shows, like, a way where you're supposed... Like, there's the tiniest little nubs, like, there and there. And you're supposed to kind of, like, put this one first and then click this up. It doesn't work great, but it'll kind of... friction on there enough just to hang on his butt for the rest of the time. So there's that. Then we'll connect our legs on. And then we drop it. That's a key step. Okay. So I will widen out. What is going on? Why is this not... Oh, I forgot. Very important step. You have to flip... flip the tiger teeth back up. There we go. So I'll move the camera up a little bit later on, but we'll just finish off here. Actually, I guess we can go ahead. Well, now let's do this first. So we're going to disconnect this. We're going to flip out the little handle there for the shield. Put that off to the side. We can just put the sword off to the side as well. You're going to take this out to the side like so. These will come down and then flip the fist. And then you're going to connect this onto here, like so. Disconnect this, flip that down. All right, I'll move the camera up because I think the rest of the components are pretty much ready to go. Okay, so at this point we're going to take the skirt piece and that is going to clip in right here. Then we're going to take this piece and this is going to clip in right here. And it kind of like perfectly fits in that little area. Plus this little black paint here is to kind of make him look slimmer. You're going to take this piece and this is going to clip on these two clips. And like when that's all together, that works. I think that looks okay. You're going to come around to the back. This is just going to, right here, is just going to friction in. So once again, it's how we like attach the skirt piece. It's not an actual clip. It just kind of frictions in. So you kind of get it behind the T-Rex head and just kind of friction that in there. And then the last touch here is to just pop on the Daizyujin head. So all things considered, in Daizyujin mode, it's not terrible. Like, are there better Daizyujin toys out there? Sure. You know, the main draw of this one is that you can take it all apart and build your own crazy stuff with the whole DXrobo universe. So, if you're just looking for a Daizyujin toy, this is not the one I would recommend. But if you're enjoying the play pattern of this line, it's not... I mean, is it the worst entry so far? Probably. I would say yes. I would say of all the ones we've gotten so far, this is probably the worst one. Mostly for the individual components. The 5 dinos do not look good. But if you just want like a quick little cheap, you know, $40 Daizyujin to pop on your shelf, it's not the worst. It doesn't look so good from the back. But I mean, you know, if you're putting it on your shelf, you're not really going to be looking at it from the back. We can go ahead and give him the dinky little sword. And you do have, basically for articulation, you can move this. There's kind of a butterfly joint. You can't really do much with it, but it is kind of there. You do have a swivel here at the elbow. You can out to the side if you want. So he's got decent movement in the arms, but that's pretty much it. I guess technically you can click these around. Doesn't really get you far. Oops, and I popped off one of the legs. It has T-Rex leg firing action. You didn't even know about that. But yeah, so I mean, there's really nothing in the legs. That's why it's kind of made to be at like a stance with the 45-degree angle. There's not really any articulation there, but there's some decent articulation in the arms. And then we can bring this arm forward and pop in the shield. And like I said, it does look a little goofy. I will say that because the feet and the trunk and the tusks and everything are one chunk of white plastic, the feet blend in better than you think. Or you would, like, you know, I don't, like, when I just look at this, it just looks like a hunk of white, and it doesn't necessarily look like the legs are on there, but then when you kind of look at it from the side, it definitely looks goofy. So shield could be better. Sword, obviously, could be better. But as far as, like, the stylized Daizyujin look, it's not bad. Like, I kind of like the head. I think the chest is very interesting. I love the silver paint and the kind of stylized design they went with that. They kind of made him, you know, more slender in the center. I almost, like, these pieces here for the side skirts that they tried to mold the little T-Rex hands into, I kind of wish that they weren't here in this mode. Like, honestly, I think if it just stopped here, it would look better. And what I would have preferred, like, don't mold this on at all, have this thing stop here, and then maybe just put, like, 2 clips there, and then just give me normal T-Rex hands or something that looks a little better that you can take off, and then, like, you know, in the back, store them here on the back of the legs or something. Like, I would have been fine with that. I would have been absolutely fine with these not being, like, if it just looked like that, I think it looks cleaner anyway. I think it looks better. Don't have these giant side skirt pieces. Have these be removed as pieces that can pop off, look like proper T-Rex hands, would solve your T-Rex problem. I think it would look better in the good Daizyujin mode, and then just come around to the back and just hide them somewhere in the back of the legs. You have all these clips. I think that would have been the way to go, but this is how they did it. And like I said, is it the worst looking Daizyujin I've ever seen? No. Are there certainly better Daizyujin toys out there? 100%. So, yeah. So just to throw another one from the line here, here is Gokayo, which I think was vastly more successful. But I mean, from the back, they both kind of look the same. Like, they don't really have, you know, super clean backs. None of them really do. It's just how the play pattern's done. But if you wanted to switch legs, arms, even heads, you could do all that. And when you kind of put these two together, I feel like it looks a little bit better, just because, like, I feel like the whole point of this line is it's better the more you buy, which I know is not great because you don't want to encourage them to make lame toys that are more fun when you have to buy all of them. But it is kind of true with this line. The more you have, you know, putting them together, they all have that kind of like stylized, sleeker body. Like, obviously DX toys are usually very blocky because they have functionality they have to pull off and things like that. But when you have something like this, you can do the more stylized, sleeker, and it does kind of work. I mean, you know, both of them have kind of tapered waists and things like that. And overall, I think they do look kind of neat. There's definitely a few tweaks they could have done with this. But also, if we take him out and we bring in the Megazord, he does have compatibility with this as well, so you can switch the arms. So, like, if we take these off and see if we can do this without too much trouble. They are the same connection. I mean, I think that looks a little goofy. There we go. Perfect. We're just flying stuff all over the place now. See, that's why I wish this piece had like a proper clip and not just the friction. Because it really just likes to fly everywhere. Okay, you know what? The other problem with this, because they have the butterfly joint, they do not want to stay to clip stuff into it. It's really a pain. Let's get on there. And I will say, like, you can see like how much that jitters. Like, the clips are there, but they're not the best. Like, they clip, but they're not the most secure. Some are like the shoulder connections, because they're different kinds of joints. They're crazy strong and hard to get on. But the little clips, like stuff jiggles around, it clips on, but it doesn't really hold all that well. It's kind of weird. But yeah, you can do stuff like that. Technically, no, I was going to say you could you could swap, because this will come off too. So, you know, a lot of these have that same kind of connection, but because they all have like pieces and things like that, it would look kind of silly. But if you wanted, let's see if we can do it. Let's just see if we can do it. This is probably all going to have to come off because of how this connects. But I could take this and pop this on here, I think. Oh no, you know what? The connection's different. So never mind, you can't do that. I thought you could. I thought that was part of the thing. They wanted that to be part of the play pattern, but this is a completely different connection. So maybe that is for something later on down the line in Gojuger that is going to connect. Look how strange he looks, just with the skeletal body. Pop this back on, and then this. So basically you can switch the arms. I thought you'd be able to switch this too, but that is a different connection, so that might be something in Gojuger's future, not so much for this line. So at the end of the day, I know we all had fun roasting this thing online when those picks first drop, and it's definitely far from perfect, but there is some good to be had here. I do like the stylized design for Daizyujin. I like the head sculpt. I think the chest looks really neat. The overall kind of more, you know, svelte, just kind of streamlined, you know, robot mode, I think looks pretty cool because, like I said, the original DX toys are very blocky because of the functionality they have to perform, and this doesn't have that. So you can get kind of a cool, you know, more dynamic design out of it. Now, again, like I said, it's far from perfect. There are a lot of things they could have done. I'm not even that upset about, you know, like, oh, well, there's a bunch of stuff hanging off the back or the back's real open. That's just par for the course for this line. I expect that at this point. The sword is a little dinky. That's not even... I don't like it. Do I wish it was better? Yes, but like I said, I kind of expected the reason for that is because it has to be the tail of the T-Rex, and I was kind of right about that. I really wish they could have done something with these mammoth legs, even if they could have just flipped up or rotated up or something so that in the shield mode, they were just, you know, up here instead of hanging down here. I feel like that's something they probably could have done, and they just didn't really bother. I don't really mind this stuff hanging off the back. I do really think, you know, like I said, the individual dino modes are the weakest part of this release. And there's just a few things they could have done that I think would have greatly improved it. I mean, the pterodactyl, okay, it was always the weakest one of the five, even with the DX. So whatever, that's kind of laughable. I can put that aside. The mammoth, if they could have found a way to just not make it so long, like I know if they would have had to put elbows in this thing back in the day, but I would have liked that, you know, even as far back as Maharobo. Give him elbows. Why not? Why can't these things have elbows? I don't understand it. And if this had elbows, you could have bent those legs down 90 degrees, and I feel like it would have been much shorter and really wouldn't have looked that bad. Like I said, the two legs in the dino mode are easily the best. They weren't much back in the day. Even the Triceratops has never really been much, but okay, I can get past those. You know, some of the ones for like Gokaio are very similar, so fine. It's really that T-Rex. And like I said, I don't even really like these side skirt pieces here. I would have made them completely removable and just made him look like this, which I think would have been completely fine. And then given us something that was kind of more T-Rex arm. I mean, even if it was just a piece that was kind of similar to this, but maybe like the hand part of it could fold down or something, and then you could kind of fold it back up and then just store it here on the back somewhere. That would have gone a long way. Honestly, that would have gone a long way, because if that T-Rex was halfway decent, I feel like the other ones could have been more passable. I think it's just the fact that the T-Rex is so bad that then you start to look at all the others and just kind of it gloms on. It becomes a snowball effect where you're like, if the T-Rex was just halfway decent, if it was just a little better, you might look at it and go, oh, well, the T-Rex is decent. These other ones are all right. And then it kind of would have been something that you might not have taken as much issue with, becomes just another thing when you start off with how bad that T-Rex is. And I know I'm talking a lot about this, but hopefully you guys understand what I'm saying. So at the end of the day, are there better Daizyujin toys out there? Yes, and there are many of them. Over the years, you know, this mecha has been done to death. So if you're looking for a great Daizyujin toy, look elsewhere. If you are enjoying the DXrobo Universe line and you want him in this line and you like the stylized look of the Robo, it's not that expensive that you'll be super disappointed. If you really never plan to display him in the dino modes, I think it's fine. If you're really just looking for this stylized version and maybe you're enjoying the mixing and matching of the limbs and stuff like that, then I don't think you'll be that disappointed. You just have to know what you're getting into. And if you're okay with everything you see here, there is some fun to be had. But it's definitely the weakest release so far. I have high hopes for Gal King. I think he looks fairly decent. And Shinkano might be okay as well. So, unfortunately, this guy may retain the title of weakest in the line. We'll have to wait and see. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. And as always, thanks so much for watching.